My name is Jonathan Gillum.
And this is The Experts. I rewatched, sorry, this is The Experts, Jonathan Gillum from New York, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. I'm going to end up breaking this thing one day because of this red button that I hit and doesn't click. But anyway, here we go. All right, so what I was saying there to myself is that yesterday we had some of the highest numbers we've ever had. We've had the most trolls that we've ever had. My views in Facebook were over 20,000. But I thought last night was one of the worst shows I ever did. So why don't we try to do better tonight? See if we can get these numbers up a little bit. Let's do it. Now, how many of you are prepared for an incident like this? Get my new book, Sheep No More, The Art of Awareness and Attack Survival, and I will teach you to think like an attacker so you can truly defend yourself. Don't just react, act. Available for pre-order now on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. Sheep No More. Get it. All right, folks. Let's see. I wanted to say, let's see, where is it right here? Cynthia says it's only her second time watching. So thank you for tuning in, Cynthia. I appreciate that. And hello to the rest of the Constitutional Quick Reaction Force. That's what I call the people that watch this show. And listen, today was a good day. Got a good, clean bill of health and a checkup from my doctor, George Shapiro. And my heart's good. That's good. You know, getting approaching 48 years old now, so got to watch that heart. But I got to kick up the running a little bit, folks. In 2014, when my beloved dog Jessie died, that was the big girl here when she died, right there. These were my running partners. We used to run 6 to 8 miles a day, and when she died, they had probably well over 3,000 miles on their paws. And when she died, my running quickly came to a halt because, for one, Rico got old real fast, and he was 1.5 years older than her. So at that point, he was already starting to get old. His running, we tried running a couple times, and it was just a little bit harder on him. And then it emotionally, believe it or not, emotionally, for those of you dog lovers out there, these were like my kids. I just could not go out and run. It was just hard. Emotionally, it just tore me up to run without my running partners. And so my running took a huge hit, but that's going to have to increase. I've been trying to do it, slowly get back into it. But you know what's interesting? My good friend, I'll just call him Jim. And Jim, I don't know if he wants to be mentioned in the media at this point, but Jim was an amazing guy. SEAL was at Red Cell. That's the group that lived like terrorists for a long time, and they got disbanded for doing their job too well. He was an incredible mentor of mine. But I remember when I was in the team, still with the teams, and when we got out, if I took a couple of weeks off from running for whatever reason, I came back, the key was always to run with Jim, so he would just stomp my ass into the ground and to get me back into that mindset of enjoying the pain. And so that's what I think I need again. I just need to go out and stomp my rear end into the ground and do this. So And then instead of doing my ice bath on Friday, I'm going to do it tonight. I lied the other day. I tried to do it, but I skipped it because, I don't know, it was warm in my apartment. But I'm telling you, ice baths are great. If you just get into the habit of doing them, they burn fat like a massive pace. But it's also a very zen experience when you're in there, because it's like riding a roller coaster. You don't think about anything except what is vital to you sustaining your life and your relationship with God. Atheists need to take more ice baths. You don't believe in God, you don't feel like you're pushed to know God, take an ice bath. You'll have a religious experience. I'm telling you right now, if you have stress going on, get in an ice bath. You will forget all about your stress. Trust me when I tell you that. So probably going to do that tonight. I say that every night. I'm really going to struggle to do that. But anyway, where am I going with all this stuff? I got to get myself back in running shape. I think my blood pressure was a little high. Not too bad, but it was a little high. It's not like I don't have a stressful life, but I've always handled blood pressure pretty well. So I'd like to challenge everybody else to do that as well. You know, if you've been putting it off, or listen, I know what it's like to try to get back into running shape. Maybe you don't want to do that. Maybe you just go start walking at a brisk pace. You know, let's do it. The CQRF, the Constitutional Quick Reaction Force, hashtag CQRF. I'd love to see you all as a part of that. So I think I hear the FDNY. You probably can't hear it. I don't know if you can or not. So what we're going to talk about tonight, first and foremost, I could just let this go and not say anything, and probably nobody would ever know the difference. But last night, with all these trolls that were going on, when you look at this phone, which is where I was looking at my, let me pull this video up here so you can see what I'm talking about. I was looking at the people that were making comments last night, and I was trying to, this one woman, I'll tell you her name here in a minute, but you see how little these pictures are right here where my finger is? I know it's whited out, but these little pictures right here, that's your face. So I could barely see her face, and I blamed the wrong person for trolling me. So tonight, I'm going to point out the real person that was trolling me, and I didn't block her yet because I wanted to make sure she knew that I was telling everybody about her. But look, if you go on a page and you're nasty to people, maybe you should be smart enough to not put all your information out there. And again, I apologize to Yvette Young, that evidently is a teacher in Brooklyn, that I thought it was her, but it's not her. It was this woman. So this is her, Yvette Young, 89.9 KMOJ. I guess that's the People Station. Wow, how about that? And that's her. So she's going to get blocked. You know, when people come on, Twitter's one thing, because Twitter's full of nasty temperaments and snowflakes, and we're going to talk about what makes a snowflake tonight. But a lot of these people that come on and troll on Facebook, it's odd because you just don't see that type of attitude. Another guy that I had today that was funny, because one of the people was like, "Dude, are you all right?" He must have watched my whole show and continued to tweet "F you, F you, F you" the entire show, which was very odd. The guy was saying he hopes I die and all this stuff. So listen, here's the good thing about trolls, is that when you start getting trolls, you know that you are on the path to getting people's attention for the right reasons. And so Carson Colt, thank you for saying that. The guy's name was Bill L. Wallace. And man, Bill, you got to get some other hobbies, man. You're killing yourself doing this. There's a lot better things that you can do. You're not going to hurt me or change my mind. The only reason I'm saying your name on here is because I think you might need to go to a hospital and get yourself checked out. I don't know. It's just strange. But anyway, speaking of getting checked out, we're going to talk about Comey. Yeah, he's still guilty. And I'm starting to really put a good picture together of the characteristics of people that follow communists and the people who are actually communists themselves. This light is really bright. Hold on. There you go. That's better. So we're going to talk a little bit about that a little bit later on the show. I was going to have a guest on here, one of the viewers, but for some reason we keep missing each other. And so what I wanted to ask is if there's anybody that wants to come on Twitter that's a viewer that I know, not somebody that I don't know, and if you want to come on through Skype, let me know. Either direct message me, because I'm looking at my direct messages here on Facebook, and I'll put you on this screen right here, just like I did with Norma. And you, if you guys have something to say, you can say it that way. Hello, Jen Jill. So why don't we go to the A block, and we're going to start talking a little bit about Comey. And I promise not to say as much as I did last night, and I promise not to get rolled up in the trolls. But listen, on Twitter is a monster, okay? And a lot of people are getting offended because people will come into the show and they're cursing and doing all this stuff. Yet you just have to ignore it and don't even pay them any attention. And I'll try to block these people when the show is over with. And if I can, during the show, if it's really out of control, there's a couple people who let me know, and I'll block them during the show. But I don't want to disrupt the show and the flow of the show anymore. That's the purpose that they have. That's what they want to do, and I'm not going to allow them to do that. So on Facebook, there's just very few people that come on there and do this. What we'll do is just leave them alone, and I'll have Kitty Kelly hunt them down and eat them. How about that? Kitty Kelly, will you do that for me? Kitty Kelly, ladies and gentlemen, 33 years in the Army. And she's a beast in the workout room. You don't want her mad at you. So I think that would work out just fine. Let's go to the A block, shall we? How many of you are prepared for an incident like this? Get my new book, Sheep No More, The Art of Awareness and Attack Survival, and I will teach you to think like an attacker so you can truly defend yourself. Don't just react, act. Available for pre-order now on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. Sheep No More. Get it. All right, there you go. You can hear me breathing over the microphone. When this goes in between, so I got to click all these things to get the different screens to come up, and I guess I got shaky hands today because I missed that one, so you got to see my face for a minute. Listen, editing problems all the time. All right, so Comey, how this guy's even in the news anymore, I don't know. It appears that Chuck Grassley, Senator Chuck Grassley, threatens to subpoena the FBI officials for answers on Comey and Clinton. And what they're actually trying to do, this is very interesting. Most people don't even realize this. There's two investigations going on about Comey. There was two. Now there's one. They're trying to get the other one started again. And this is so typical of the way the government works with executives. So they were trying to go after Comey for the Hatch Act. And let me pull up. I want the exact definition of the Hatch Act. So let me pull that up here. Because I want you to understand it. I'll read the definition and I'll explain it to you. Yeah, come on. Okay. The Hatch Act of 1939, officially an act to prevent pernicious political activities, is the United States federal law whose main provision prohibits employees in the executive branch, okay, of the federal government, except the president. I think it should include the president, but it excludes the president, the vice president, and certain designed high-level officials. I think they should all be banned from it, because what they end up doing is using the airplanes and the budgets for the president's travel and things like that. They end up using that for campaigning for for people in their party. I don't agree with that. I think it should be against the law. So the Hatch Act says that people cannot engage in, hold on a second, I lost the second half of this, engage in some forms of political activity. It went into law August 2nd, 1939. The law is named after Senator Carl Hatch. So basically, you can't use your political office to influence an election. And that's just people in the executive branch. So that includes law enforcement, for instance, under the DOJ, the FBI, the DEA, all these different groups, intelligence agencies, the DOD, you know, people that fall underneath the executive branch, except for the president, the vice president, and certain high-level people, individuals like I can't march in uniform and try to convince people that they should vote one way or the other because I'm in uniform. That's illegal. So there was an investigation against Comey that perhaps he had violated the Hatch Act by influencing before the issue happened with Hillary that she lost, and he came out and reopened the investigation. Everything leading up to that, it appears as though he may have violated the Hatch Act. First off, he in July of last year, he drafted a letter to exonerate Hillary Clinton, and that was 2 months before she had even testified before the FBI, which we know was a crock anyway. So that threw up a lot of red flags when people found that out, that this letter had already been drafted and she hadn't even testified. So very interesting. And so but that case was dropped or closed because of Comey is no longer a federal employee. This is what's interesting about executives in the federal government, is that if that was myself and then I decided to resign from the FBI, they're not going to stop. They're going to continue to come after me. That's the way it works. If you're low-lying fruit in the FBI or the federal government and you do something wrong, they're not going to stop until they get you. They're not. Something stuck to my cup. So that's why I believe it's going to be a cold day in hell before they actually bring Comey up on charges. I think the same thing with Hillary Clinton, because a lot of these people believe, I think, that if they do this, they are going to be highlighting the very things that they do themselves on both sides of the aisle, politicians and people that work on executive levels in these agencies. So they're not apt to go after these people and crush them. Also, it's kind of like, you know, I've done security for a lot of celebrities. I know a lot of stuff that's going on behind the scenes, but I'm not going to talk about that. And because you lose business if you do that. Nobody would trust you. Why would they? They wouldn't hire you anymore. So what I see behind the scenes with celebrities, I treat it the same way because they hired me and paid me money. I treat it the same way as if the government gives me a security clearance and expects me to be trustworthy with the information that I gain. So that's the way I look at it. And when it comes to the way that these people protect themselves, was that where I was going with this? Let me just backtrack a little bit here. When it comes to Comey and it comes to Clinton and it comes to all these different individuals, they do. That's not where I was going with this, but I'm going to go with it this way anyway. They do not. They don't give each other up because there's information there that they themselves have probably done themselves, that they've probably done. And so they're not going to give up other people because they're afraid it's going to get them burned overall. I don't know where I was going with that with doing the protection stuff. I had it in my head. Today's been a long day, folks. It's been a long day. I got stuck with needles today. So, plus it's freaking hot in this apartment. I don't know why. I should call this a studio. It's a studio. So, somebody just wrote cover up on Twitter. See, you and I would call it a cover up, right? If I did something to maneuver myself to get out of trouble and lied, that's a cover-up. But to these executives, what's crazy is it's not necessarily Hillary Clinton or James Comey that are going to cover things up. It's the actual people that are looking into them that are going to cover this up. They may go after people and try to ruin their political career, but how often do you see politicians go to jail for doing the very same things that would get other people slammed away for 20 years? Rarely. Rarely do you ever see that. Speaking of cover-ups, make sure that you're not covering up this show, that you are retweeting it on Twitter or just sharing it on Twitter. Make sure that you're sharing this on Facebook if you have not already. Last night, one of the things that helped us was that everybody was sharing this show last night. Let's go ahead and turn that on too. So I was saying a long time ago that James Comey was guilty. I remember I had Mr. X on here a couple of months ago, and he said publicly that he wanted to apologize to me because I kept saying that he was doing Comey was doing unethical things, and that he was not to be trusted. And there was a history of this, but it was a history that was kind of half under the covers, the way these people protect each other. And when he came out that he leaked that really changed a lot in people's eyes. The fact that this director would leak a paper for the purpose of causing a special prosecutor to come on by giving it to the media through a professor at Columbia University was just too much for a lot of people to handle in the Bureau, and they saw the light. So I think that's when it comes to Comey, he's been guilty the whole time. He just plays a great game. Now, there are two. If they get this one reinstated, this investigation, that means there are going to be two investigations going on at the same time. The other investigation is has to do with Comey's actions, also Comey's actions during the election, but it's different from the Hatch Act. Now, I don't know what that means, but that's what was reported. Let's see if there's anything else on here about that. I didn't see anything else on here about that. Yeah. Either way, here's the fact. James Comey, I believe, violated the Hatch Act. James Comey leaked government information. James Comey, I think, conspired to influence the election. I think that it could be said that he and certain individuals at the FBI gathered teams of people that are loyal to the leftist agenda, and I believe that they had a part in this as well. Mueller has lied to Congress. I don't know if he's been interviewed by the FBI, but if he tells the same story he's been telling, he's going to be guilty of lying to the FBI. And that's it doesn't get any worse than those things that I just pointed out. This man should be in jail. And it's a good learning point for the United States that just because somebody looks nice and acts nice and says all the right things and dots their I's and crosses their T's, it doesn't mean that they're not a liar. They could be lying about all that stuff. The I's and the T's could be practiced to where they look perfect, but the reality is they're not. The other thing about this that kind of bothers me is that Lindsey Graham is one of the other people who wanted to get this investigation going again. And Lindsey Graham, I don't know, that guy, he kills me. Lindsey's, I think he's in the JAG Corps in the Army, I believe, and he's been around for a long, long time. But he's one step away from John McCain. He just doesn't really. I think Lindsey Graham is just so much of a establishment member that even when his good graces in his right mind try to step in there, the other globalists, the other establishment type mind is constantly battling with that other one. And I think you see that going. Now, anybody got any questions on that? I think that's pretty much what I see on that. It's not real sexy, but I do believe, and as I said before, I think that the actions of Hillary Clinton injured the national security of this country. We won't even know how bad. I think that James Comey injured the national security of this country. One of the main reasons how he injured it was because he didn't, well, let's say in the case of what I just reported, coming from FoxNews.com, that he actually conspired to change things in Hillary Clinton, or to the vote process for Hillary Clinton or the campaign, that he actually did already have a letter written getting her off the hook long before she even investigated, and actually was just playing to her favor. You know, James Comey has committed a lot of crimes. And I believe that if they investigate this correctly and if they go deep enough, they're going to be able to easily put this guy in jail. I just don't know if that's ever going to happen. I honestly don't know if that's going to happen. So somebody says on Twitter, come on, Hillary paid Comey to lie. That's Melody says that. Did he pay Hillary to, or did Hillary pay Comey to lie? You know, in Washington, D.C., I think I've told this story before. A friend of mine, he may be watching this show, was a neighbor with Colin Powell. And Colin Powell was getting ready to retire, and he asked him, he said, so what are you going to be doing now that you're going to be retiring? He goes, oh, you know how it works. I'll retire. I'll get several different boards offered to me. I'll get a book deal that's automatic. Then I'll go on a speaking tour, and you know they'll pocket several $1 million that way, and the book will be a bestseller. And then maybe go into politics. There is a system in place where, very similar to the mafia, you know, like for instance, if you screw up and you're an executive level and you screw up, how many of those people do you see get fired? They typically don't. They get moved, they get promoted, but nothing ever bumps them down, really. And my whole take on that has always been that if you catch somebody in a corner when they've done something wrong, and then you flip them just like a source, and you say, listen, I got your back, I'll take care of you, but you're going to owe me, right? They might not even say that. So in an essence, yes, getting paid off is by they took care of him at one point, and so he's going to scratch the back of somebody else or of them if they get in trouble, and vice versa. So I think with Comey, I don't think he was paid off. I think he was a part of this whole thing, and it was of being the head of the FBI, of overseeing this stuff, and he was trying to maneuver his way as close to the line of calling her guilty but still getting her off as he possibly could, because they all know that the American public forgets very quickly. They very quickly forget about things, and if you can turn the tides as fast as possible, then you can actually get somebody off on a crime in Washington, D.C., and then the rest of the people just forget about it before long. Let's see, so somebody else is asking something. Somebody, oh. Hold on a second. I got to read this. Let me pull up here where I can see it better. Hold on. My eyes are failing. Getting old sucks, folks. It sucks. So my good buddy Kate says, where is it? How crazy that Hugh Hefner leads that life that he led up until 91 and gets the gift of dying in his sleep. Unreal. Yeah. There's so many jokes that I could say off of this, but I try to keep this show clean. Don't get me started, please. So, Yeah, Bill Maher's going to be sad. Bill Maher's a big Playboy Mansion guy. Big, I mean, from the rumors I've heard, big cokehead, and loves to hang out around the Playboy Mansion, which that would be, if a girl made out with Bill Maher, that would be like making out with one of those plastic statues down at the Madame Tussauds wax factory. That guy is a strange dude, man. Strange. He gets it right when it comes to Islam, but no, listen. Somebody wrote "seal with a G-rated mouth." Listen, I know what kills a career on in media, and going and laying out the F-bombs, and I don't do that anyway. But there's a lot of people that I really respect on here, women that I respect. My mom watches this show, and that's why I try to keep it as clean as possible. Somebody asks, is Hillary the devil or just a goblin? She's neither. She's a joke. That's what she is. She's a criminal, right? You know if she was a goblin, you'd know if she was the devil because she would present herself as God. Hillary Clinton is a criminal. That's what she is. She's a Don, like, a mafiosa Don. So let's go to the B block, and I want to talk about the experience from yesterday and what I've learned about snowflakes versus the communists that they follow. Let's go to the B block now. How many of you are prepared for an incident like this? Get my new book, Sheep No More, The Art of Awareness and Attack Survival, and I will teach you to think like an attacker so you can truly defend yourself. Don't just react, act. Available for pre-order now on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. Sheep No More. Get it. Okay, I want to go to my Twitter here, and I want to pull up. I learned, I'm constantly seeking knowledge, right? And then applying that to the experiences I have or gaining experience. So I understand how people are that fall, especially, well, not just young people, but people that are very fanatical about their political beliefs, right? I had a long conversation with a neighbor of mine last night who's very liberal, and I tried to, it was actually a good conversation, but he's very liberal. Thinks that Trump has completely destroyed this country. I don't know. And that he's screwing up every day. It's like, I can't believe how much he's just effed up here, and it's all as a disaster and this and that, and he won't survive 4 years. And I'm sitting here going, I mean, honestly, even if I take out all the support that I've given him and the criticism that I have for President Trump, I do have some criticism. I don't see these big screw-ups. I don't know where people are seeing this stuff. So I started, trying to talk to my friend and tell them, listen, and this is what I want to kind of get to everybody, is that we're all arguing about whether Trump is good or bad. We're arguing about whether or not, you should have a pipeline here or not, whether or not the reaction down in Puerto Rico has been fast enough or not, politics. So we argue about whether we should take a knee and whether President Trump caused more people to take a knee. And this stuff goes back and forth. And people get very, very angry. Very angry. All the while, these people that are like the Colin Kaepernicks, the women that started the Black Lives Matter movement, just communists in general, Marxists, they are organizing all these things to cause this division within the country. And that's what I was trying to explain to him. I said, listen, when you start to get mad, right, that's when you should take a couple steps back, take a deep breath and say, okay, why am I so mad here? What else am I mad because somebody's screwing something up, or am I mad because I've been programmed to think that this person is going to be and is a screw up? And then you need to take a look. Even if you can't resolve that issue, take a look around. See if the protesters and the movements that they push forward are actually doing anything. Stopping a road here, stopping a road there, kneeling here, kneeling there. And then you look at the inner city from the past 8 years, 9 years ago, 8.5 years ago when Barack Obama went in office. They got worse. They didn't get better. You look at immigration issues. Immigration, even with the Democrats, they don't want to fix immigration. They don't. And I think part of that has to be with the fact that the more illegals are here, they think that they're going to end up voting eventually, like they've tried to do in several cities around this country. But they're going to... those people are going to be loyal to the Democratic Party, so they don't raise a ruckus about that, right? So what we're getting mad about, the wall, deporting. I saw there 400 and something illegals have been deported out of sanctuary cities in the past week. That is phenomenal. Not, anywhere close to the numbers that we need to get out the bad people in this country, but. We're getting angry about things that are ridiculous. So here, let me read this to you. This was, I call them trolls, but this girl may really have just hated me or something. But so she comes at me, and this is the other thing. They come at you with some very nasty stuff, very mean. Unfortunately, I'm blocked now, so I can't pull up what she tweeted, unfortunately, because she blocked me. So her tweets are now blocked from me. But I'm going to show you her picture and stuff. So in case she's not blocked you, which probably she hasn't, you can go on and say hello to her and tell her, sorry that her snowflake got triggered. So she calls me a seal, spells it with small letters, which is a mammal, not a naval special warfare operator. And she called me a bigot, and she called me a fascist. She said that I had small hands, which anybody that, not that I care about what anybody thinks about my hands, but listen, I got bear claws, and these things they're a blessing because I can punch somebody with them. I can pick stuff up. I can open bottles really easy. But like, I'll take a drink of this, set it down, turn around, and my big freaking hand will knock it right off the cabinet, and water goes everywhere. I do stuff like that with these big hands all the time. So, but she said I have little hands because she's referring to Donald Trump. But like, that's going to hurt me somehow. So I came back at her and said a seal with the the little letters is a water mammal. A seal, all capital, is a naval special warfare operator. Communists like you love to go around calling everyone bigot, because that's what she did. And I put hashtag triggered. So then she came back at me, and that's when she said the stuff about the big hands and bigot and all this stuff. But again, she was striving to reach every single cliche that a snowflake does. And I said to her, you literally, and the only reason I argue with these people is not that I think I'm going to change them, but I started thinking about this after I had this debate with my neighbor, that there are very specific things that they do and say, and I'm trying to get a list of characteristics and behaviors that they have. And so I go back here and say, you literally used every leftist baseless insult there is in one tweet. Now, baseless is one of the big things. Like, they like to say the stuff about that, you don't have big hands because they know that Donald Trump was insulted about that, and they think you're going to react to that. They ignore your military service and say you don't know anything. They'll belittle your service, saying that SEALs aren't anything, that you're a dumbass or something like that. And so then she comes back is another thing that these snowflakes like to do. They like to point out how educated they are, and they like to point out when you misspell a word, like Twitter is a spelling competition or some kind of literary. They're going to give out some kind of Nobel Prize for tweets at the end of the year. I don't really care. I always try to do the your thing. How the 3 ways that you can spell that, and two and two. I got that wrong the other day. TOO versus TO versus TWO. But I'm okay if I make a grammatical error. It's no big deal. In the case of the Dale Jr., when I wrote that one the first time and I was half asleep when I was writing it, and I wrote too stupid to know, and it's T-O-O stupid T-O, and I wrote T-O-T-O. I had to go back and change that meme. See, it's full disclosure here because I'm not perfect. I make these mistakes. But that doesn't negate my resume. That doesn't negate the years of service, understanding of how politics work, the understanding how federal agencies work, about life and death and killing. And, it doesn't negate all that. But this girl comes back and says that that she has a PhD and that she's not stupid. And because I said when you say things right off the bat where you judge people, call them bigot, and you follow this line of behavior that these snowflakes use, it really does make you look stupid. That's what I don't think these people realize, is they really do look dumb when they go. And I'm sure, I'm not even looking at Twitter, but I'm sure some of you are over there right now. The trolls are trolling. And remember, folks, if you're on Twitter or on Facebook and somebody starts to just ignore them. Let them just do their thing. They'll go away if you ignore them. And I'll eventually block them. But so these characteristics make you look dumb. But she had to point out that she had a PhD, that she lives in Boston, as though I'm supposed to be intimidated by the fact she lives in Boston. I don't know what that was all about. So I came back at her, hashtag triggered. This is the real world that we live in, not a college campus. And there are no safe spaces here. And then I told her this, and this is what I want everybody else to do. When these people get into these arguments, start using this phrase. Tell them, go back to your next communist meeting and tell them this. The storm is coming. That's what I want you to start telling everybody. And then put hashtag CQRF. Because there is a storm coming. What has happened, and I hope it took place now. They didn't turn on NFL. I don't know what their numbers are tonight. I'm going to be eager to find out, because I'm going to be very let down by the American public. I have a feeling there's a large number of people, of super fans, that are addicted to the reality football, that they're not going to let go of this stuff, that there's probably people who could care less one way or the other. They just want to go drink and have a good time, or they'll worry about it on the next day, and they're not going to, I'm not going to give this up, right? So because they think it's not worth giving up, that the country will still go on and nothing's going to happen. They're not seeing the big picture. But there is a storm coming, and that storm, which I've seen with a lot of people burning their jerseys, they're burning their season tickets, they're getting out of their cable special things that they have to watch football. The more, see, this is what they're trying to do, but at the same time, it's actually good for this country. Communism is trying to cause a reaction so they can cause a clash, right? So they cause this clash, and then out of this clash comes a synthesis of one. That's the way they're thinking, right? So you take these guys, and in the days of Lenin, it was the bourgeoisie, the rich people, the factory owners, and the workers, and they try to get these people to clash. Here's what's funny about how this works. So they divvy them up, they use propaganda, they use all these different things, and they get these people all mad at each other, and eventually, of course, the rich people are just enjoying their life. I don't think they really care. But eventually, usually the poorer class, or the people who are outcasts in society, you know, whether you have gay groups or feminism or transgenders or any of these different groups, it could be a black separatist, whatever, they will go and they will try to manipulate their anger, or they will just tell them, you should be upset because women are oppressed. And there's women who are like, never oppressed, and they're like, we're oppressed? Yes, you're oppressed. You're a woman. You're always going to be oppressed. So they get them spun up on this stuff. And so what happened in the case of Russia, they caused this spin up, and they went at each other. And then there's a period, so that happens, and then there's a period of normalization, right? And normalization, the reality of what it is, that's the time when the centralized government that's been created through this synthesis, they go around and they kill the people that were causing the division and the anger. So you may have women's lib, you may have some kind of gay activist group, and people that are very active in protesting. And so after the confrontation, and there's the beginnings of a census, not really, but the confrontation happens, normalization happens where the government comes in and they crack the whip. And when they do that, the people who were actually the ones believing in this are typically the ones who get killed first, because they don't want those people around. Because once you've done protests and you have people who've stood up against the government, and then they see the government do something for real, they're the first ones that are going to stand up, back up. And so they want to get rid of those people, and that's what they do. Now, most of these people that are snowflakes, like this woman that I was going back and forth with, let me see if this is her. Yeah, there she is. I mean, this is what's hilarious about this, okay? Now, granted, if this is her, I think it is because she has a profile picture as well. It must burn this girl's hide because she looks like Ivanka Trump. What a curse. So, and this is her profile picture right here on Twitter. This is it. That's just got to be harsh on her to know that she looks like Ivanka Trump. And as you can see, yay for me, she blocked me. So that's it. Get a screenshot of that if you can. ebits119. And you guys can go and give her some CQRF love and let her know that we appreciate her service to the citizenry by going and getting a higher education, and good luck. We hope that she finds her way to the truth. But knowledge without understanding and experience equals a big zero. A big zero. You're going to end up being some kind of opinionated snob, which it sounds like she is. And so, anyway, she ended up blocking, and but after dealing with all these people, I'm starting to see the difference here. You have a video that was out last week, and you have some people that were marching with Black Lives Matter in Washington, D.C. I believe it was Washington. And then there was some kind of a rally for patriots. And so the Black Lives Matter people came up there. I thought this was fantastic. It was fantastic. And it really does show where the solutions to all these lie. And also it shows you that the people that make up these groups aren't necessarily of the same mind as those that founded the groups. So they invited the guy that was leading the Black Lives Matter group to come up on stage and talk. They gave him the microphone. And so he stood up there and he said, you know, I feel about the government this way. And everybody's like, yeah, so do we. And he said, I feel about the government this way. And they're like, yeah, so do we. And then he said something they didn't agree with, something a little insulting. But then he got back on these different aspects of what he is believing, what they're trying to do. And the majority of people there actually agreed with him. And see, that dialogue is what's going to fix, I wouldn't say all this, but it's going to fix a lot. Because what happens is, the smart people like this guy start to realize that, okay, that's who I need to be working it out with. The people that I'm shoving up against, throwing my flag in their face, what's actually happening there is you're being taught to make the problem worse. So I don't know if you want to call that guy a snowflake, but I do think a lot of people like this girl here that was going for a PhD, young woman, and she is a hater, and she could be a communist, maybe not. But what I see with a lot of these people is that they have these characteristics. They have these characteristics where they're triggered very easily. They're very emotional. They are very hurtful in the things that they say, which from a psychological point of view, I didn't get a master's degree in psychology, but I have a bachelor's degree in psychology and political science. I have to think that somewhere along the way, a lot of these people have been injured in their childhoods. They weren't treated with respect. Maybe they got bullied at school. By the way, bullying is not always bad. I mean, I don't like bullies, and I think that bullies should be put in their place. But I was bullied, and it hardened me. Now, I'm not saying I agree with bullying, so don't quote me on that. But there are actually positive side effects to having to deal with bullies. You become a stronger human being. Typically, the the reward you get for putting up with that is that you go back to a school reunion 20 or 30 years later, and those people are in the same place. They're just fatter, less teeth, and they're talking about the same high school days that they did before. So that's always the reward for that, if anybody's had to go through that. So a lot of these snowflakes, as I'd call them, not the foundation of the groups that they belong to, they are spoiled kids. A lot of them are rich kids. Not all of them, but I think a lot of them are neglected kids. And I think that a lot of them come from, which is the deal with this girl. She's about to be she's in the PhD program in Boston, and the education system breeds communist thinking. Now you ask a lot of them, and they say, no, I'm not a communist. But then you dig into what they believe, and yeah, they are communist. They just don't realize it. Some of them do, some of them don't. So the difference, though, when I'm looking at the behaviors, whether it's laid out by Yuri Brezhnev or just what we appear to see. Let's take Black Lives Matter, for instance. Black Lives Matter was started by 3 Marxist lesbians, right? But you never hear about them. You hear about the Tamika Mallorys. You hear about the who's the other girl that I'm thinking of? Linda Sarsour. You hear about these types of people, the Colin Kaepernick. But they're not, even though they are communists, and as Rick Unger, I could not explain to him today when we were on Sean Hannity's show, for some strange reason, he wouldn't get this, is that Colin Kaepernick is a communist. He's worn Che Guevara shirts. He's worn Fidel Castro shirts. He's worn socks with pigs that are cops on, and he said all these salacious things about communism and these people. He's a communist, okay? She's a Muslim communist. He may be Muslim now, too. I think he converted. But this explains the Red-Green Alliance and how close the communists and the Islamic movement are. They really do work together closely. But when you look at their behavior and their beliefs, and you look at the structure of the people that started Black Lives Matter, and the person that's kneeling, right? The person that originally started kneeling, which is Colin Kaepernick, has done nothing to better the inner city. He doesn't speak about how to fix the inner city. He doesn't do what those patriots did when they asked the Black Lives Matter guy to come up, and they gave him the mic and to see what he had to say, and they actually agreed with some of it. Colin Kaepernick doesn't do that. That's because communists don't want a solution. They want a division. Remember that, folks. They want to cause enough anger that people will fight in the hopes that it will cause them some weird way to come together and form a synthesis with the government's help of killing people who were troublemakers. So that's the difference between somebody who's a snowflake and somebody that is an outright communist that is embedded deeply in politics and in the actions that these people are carrying out. When you look at the snowflakes, a lot of times you ask them questions, they don't have answers, but they're always out there. When you look at the founders and the extremists of these communist groups, they're not often, a lot of the times, they're not out there. They may send a representative to get the riots or the protests together, but they're not necessarily going to be out there full-fledged, the one with the megaphone. They hand that off down to soldiers at a different level. So that should show you something, folks, that when you try to talk to a lot of these people, they're not going to understand what you see, right? Because they can't see it. It'd be like, you know, it's like this. Like, I'm one of the founders, right? And the camera is a snowflake, and this is all they see. They don't see this in the founders. They only see this, and they're okay with that part of it. So what happens is you get in an argument and you say, this person's a communist, and they say, no, they're not. A communist? You're crazy. You know, my neighbor's that way. I could tell him and show proof, but he's not going to see it. because these people are spoon-fed a fake reality for a long time, especially in these larger cities, that it gets to a point where they just believe whatever narrative they're told. And they just simply cannot see the truth. They just can't see it. So what else we got here? Let's see here. Hold on one second here. So this nuts guy is a problem, I guess, right? Is that right, folks? This nuts dude? Hold on. Well, I'm not going to get locked into this again, but if this nuts guy is a problem, then we'll go ahead and I'll try to block him. I don't know if this is going to block him from the show or not. And then we'll get back on this. But see, what I'm wanting everybody to understand with this, folks, is that there is, you can identify who the real communists are because they're not the ones typically that are out there doing the fight. They're running this like a covert mission, and they're running it like these people are large groups of sources. They're allowing them to do the work. The snowflakes do the work. Knowingly or unknowingly, they do the work. And so what happens is people are identifying, say Colin Kaepernick comes out and takes a knee, he's a communist. Then he convinces his other teammates to do it, and then other teammates do it. Now, maybe 1 or 2 or 10 or 15 of those people are communists, but the rest of them aren't. All the Pittsburgh Steelers aren't. But what they do is they come out there and they end up taking a knee with them in support of their First Amendment rights and completely missing the fact that these people are communists. So the other people end up doing their work in bulk. Now, somebody pointed something out yesterday today on email. In fact, let me pull that up real quick. Yeah, don't engage these people, folks. I don't want to ruin I'm rolling now. I don't want to stop it. Let me bring up this email. This is an excellent point, and I want my fans to know that not my fans, my teammates, all right, got to get that right, that I do read these emails. So GL, I'm not going to say, well, all I got is, I do have his name down here. I don't know if, I'll just say Ray. Ray, I'm listening to what you had to say. So, and he brought up a great point. The people so a protest, now I don't know if this is law, I got to look into this, but according to Ray, everybody's missing this important point. Media is trying to figure out the right time to protest and when they should figure out the right place to protest. No protest with captive audience. Now, I don't know if what he's talking about there, but when you do look at this, it makes a lot of sense. If you want to go protest, you go get a legal protest, you go get a permit, and you're told to go to this specific place, and that's where you can voice your opinion. But what these people do is they garner up captive audiences, right? So they, for instance, will block a road where you can't get around them. That's a captive audience. They're going to go in and take a knee in the football stadium. Instead of going outside after the show or after the game and taking a knee and doing something out there, they pick the national anthem, the place where the majority of people are standing together, where the people aren't going to leave, and they hold them captive for their protest. That's what's happening. I thought that was an excellent point. And I'm not sure where I got to write this guy and see. It says, do not protest someplace where others will be bothered, annoyed, angered, while not being able to flee the scene. Maybe that's the law. I don't know, but I'm going to find out. No protest in crowded movie theaters, in crowded elevators, in crowded church, in crowded airplane, in your office, or in a crowded NFL, MLB, NHL, NBA stadium, and no protest in a crowded classroom auditorium. Now, I don't know if that's the law or if he's saying that's the way it should be, But it's very interesting when you think about it. People are being held captive in this environment by these protesters where they can't just get up and leave a lot of the times. I find that very interesting. I can't wait to go back through these tweets tonight. All right, anybody got any questions? I know my numbers went down because Sean Hannity is interviewing Rush Limbaugh. I've got it recording myself so I can watch it. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to close the show out for tonight. Make sure that you share this show and make sure that you retweet it on Twitter. Tell everybody about it. And I'm going to be hosting tomorrow morning from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. on the David Webb Show. So I'm hosting tomorrow for 3 hours. If you have Sirius XM Patriot Channel 125, tune in. The call-in number is 866, man, I forgot it. It's been so long, 957-2874. 866-957-2874, I believe is what it is. And you can call in and talk to me tomorrow. Now, I asked this earlier. I didn't get any feedback. Does anybody want to come up on the big screen back here and share anything or talk about anything? Because I'll let you call in on Twitter, on Skype right now if you want to. And if you're a snowflake and you're brave enough to put your face up there, I'll put you up there. Listen, as long as you keep it clean, you don't use curse words, we can have a nice little debate. And we'll go from there. No, I'm not getting anybody saying they want to. So, that's it. Let's go to the Truth Zone. I'm hosting David Webb Show tomorrow, and then I'll be back here tomorrow evening at 8 p.m. for the Friday Night Toast. And we'll go from there. I'm tired. That's a good thing, though. It means I worked hard. I guess that's what it means. Or I didn't sleep much last night because of my dog. All right, let's go to the Truth Zone. How many of you are prepared for an incident like this? Get my new book, Sheep No More, The Art of Awareness and Attack Survival, and I will teach you to think like an attacker so you can truly defend yourself. Don't just react, act. Available for pre-order now on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. Sheep No More. Get it. I did it again. See how tired I am? All right. So here's what I want to end with tonight. Okay? The world is going crazy. This country is faltering. And the citizenry is getting pushed into this clash. What you have to do, folks, is you cannot allow yourself to get into the mindset of anger based on a narrative or anger based on politics. You have to be able to take a step back. I'm talking to liberals and conservatives right now. Take a step back, and as I've talked about this week, you may not know everything that you think you know. People say Donald Trump is this way, or so-and-so is that way. But do you know them? You don't know them. And they may be completely different than what you are seeing and what is appearing to you through the media, because the media lies and media change perception of things. I've had it done to myself. I know other people have been burned that way. That's what media does. They have the ability to change perception. And remember, perception is reality. So, do yourself a favor. Take a deep breath, as Dr. Shapiro said today. Count backwards from 10. And then take another deep breath. and relax yourself. Don't allow yourself to get like this young woman was on Twitter, where she's cursing me out, insulting the size of my hands, belittling my resume, being nasty to other people that come on and talk to her. If you're liberal and you believe that President Trump is doing this or doing that, getting angry about it doesn't do you any good. You should ultimately want the truth, and you should ultimately be seeking what is best for the country. So if you start to falter towards a point, you're a liberal, where you start to think, well, the centralized government's the best idea, socialism is a great idea, Bernie Sanders is a great idea, you are sliding away from the very freedoms and the very foundation of this country, which is the Constitution. And that's very easy to do when you're angry. When you're angry, you don't control overall emotions. You don't control your thoughts. Things get blurry. So take a step back. Count backwards from 10. Breathe deeply. And study. Learn. Don't think that you know everything. Look for the answers. You can't trust anything in politics. Anything. It's all a lie. Join me tomorrow on David Webb's show at 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. And I'll be back here tomorrow night. Bring your glasses and your cups, and we'll have our Friday night toasts. And remember, folks, this show is never going to be perfect. This show is never going to be exactly what every single person wants to hear. Sometimes conservatives won't be happy. Sometimes liberals won't be happy. But I don't skew from the truth, and I don't let my anger and emotions guide me when it comes to figuring out exactly what's going on in this country. That is the truth. That's what I follow. My name is Jonathan Gillum, as you all probably know by now. My good buddy Rico's over there asleep on the floor. Join me tomorrow for the Friday Night Toast and David Webb Show at 9 a.m. on SiriusXM Patriot Channel 125. The truth has arrived.
Don't forget to go pre-order the book Sheep No More. I will teach you how to target yourself from an attacker's point of view. No, this is not Debbie Wasserman Schultz today. Let's see here. Is that any better? There you go. Wait, hold on. There you go. Go get the book Sheep No More. The Art of Awareness and Attack Survival. So I can teach you how to think like an attacker. Teach you how to build a target package on yourself. I'm just doing this voice so it's more interesting.
Go order the book, Sheep No More, The Art of Awareness and Attack Survival. I'm going to teach you how to build target packages on every aspect of your life. I'm going to teach you how attackers think, how defenders think, and give you realistic scenarios of people who've used these techniques in their lives, and you're going to see how well it works. Also, don't forget about the Experts Roadshow. Go to the GoFundMe page, gofund.me/The Experts Roadshow. $50 is going to get you a signed book. And again, that's what supports this show. That's what allows this show to continue. Thank you all for all the donations that you give. and don't stop giving, because we got to keep this show going. Breitbart stole my idea, by the way. Breitbart's now going to have a road show. It ain't going to be nothing like this show, though. I'm a one-man show. How many of you are prepared for an incident like this? Get my new book, Sheep No More, The Art of Awareness and Attack Survival, and I will teach you to think like an attacker so you can truly defend yourself. Don't just react, act. Available for pre-order now on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. Sheep No More. Get it.